Okay, and we will let's reset the timer. And 3, 2.
Good morning, Columbus, and welcome to another edition of From Our House to Your Home, the Remodeler Showcase. My name's Marty Reed. I'm your host, and the show is brought to you by Frog Hauling. If you want to clean your garage, your basement, your yard, get rid of a neighbor. I'm just kidding. Think of Frog Hauling. And if you're a remodeling contractor and only the best product will do for your customers, think of Frog Hauling. We carry 5 different sizes of containers, so you're never paying for more container than you need. Well, last week, I closed the show and said, I asked you to listen this week because I said I have a famous guest on my show. And I thought it would be very interesting because, believe it or not, we're going to talk about design trends today. And everybody loves to know what the latest and greatest, it's like buying a car.
It is.
What nobody wants to buy last year's model. They want to buy the current model. Even though I don't agree with all the current models. But anyways, we have with us Monica Miller of J.S. Brown and Company. And Monica, I meant to tell the audience, when I was teasing, I said, we have a famous guest. You do have a reputation in town because you have been at J.S. Brown for quite some time, and you are noted as being an expert design consultant. So if I've embarrassed you and your cheeks are turning red, that's okay.
Well, when you said reputation, I kind of worried for a second there. So I'm hoping that's a good thing since you connected J.S. Brown. But,
okay.
Yes, I have been there quite a while.
You have been there.
Yes.
You're an institution in town in design also. I know that.
Institution makes me sound very old.
Well, it's a young institution. Okay.
a young, fresh institution.
There you go.
Yes, but thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to put you on the spot
Go ahead.
because I always do a lousy job of this, and I don't want to embarrass you anymore. So tell the folks a little bit about your role at J.S. Brown, what you do there.
Okay, so my role at J.S. Brown and Company is primarily design and sales. So I work with clients from their first call into our office or their first email through our website, and I work with them all the way through the final walkthrough of their project. And about halfway through the process, when we're done with design, but before it goes into production, I get a project manager, and he and I, along with the interior design support staff, see that project all the way through.
Okay. Now we're going to get into some meat and potatoes about what really design means to you and to J.S. Brown and Company, okay?
Okay.
So I'm going to paint a picture.
All right.
Okay. Don't ask me to pick a paint color.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now, and people have heard me say this on this show because I think it sets the stage for people like me, and I'm your worst nightmare, okay? My wife wants a new kitchen. Okay, what does that mean? Or they'll ask a question, why? And I will look at you, and I will go,
What's wrong with the
what's wrong with what I have?
Right.
And so then I'm giving you true life experience with me. We've done remodeling, and then they start with, pick the knobs, the color cabinet, the paint, whatever the heck it is. And I'm telling you, I was never meant to even have a crayon and a coloring book. I have no skill at all. So assume you start from your worst nightmare, the guy that just sits there and looks at you. How do you get them to the end point, so to speak? What's your process?
Well, sometimes it can be challenging, and the easiest client is one who has some sort of sense of a general direction that they want, but they're not too hung up and really nailed down on I have to have this specific thing. They have a direction, but they're not too inflexible. A difficult client would be one that says, I have no idea what I want or why.
Yeah.
And so that can be hard. You have to go through a more conscientious questioning of that client and talk to them about, well, why do you think you need a new kitchen? Are you doing it because...
The cabinet door fell off last week.
And that's a perfectly reasonable thing. And so for some people, it's, hey, it's out of date, or it doesn't function for me, or I feel isolated, or I'm going to sell the house, or... there's 100 different reasons why somebody might want to update their kitchen. And so that's a critical part of the design process is what are you doing it for? And then once you get down to the why, we can help you with the how. We can work you through all of those questions of, okay, we're doing it for this reason. Have you established a budget? These are the things that are going to fit nicely into this budget. One of these 2 or 3 things probably ought to be your priority for budget. Where we allocate the majority of your funds. So how do you feel about prioritizing one over the other? And then we'll help you narrow it down. It's really a good designer, a good contractor's job to help with all of that decision making. You shouldn't be left alone in that process and feel like you have to do it all on your own. So we'll walk you through all of that.
Do you find today that, and maybe there is no rhyme or reason, but at least in my experience, when I look at remodeling projects that people do, it kind of falls into 2 categories. One would be, or maybe it's a combination of them, functional obsolescence, lifestyle change.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, is that really kind of focusing on why people remodel?
Yes, I think so. I think particularly in the kitchen, but also in the bathroom, and these are 2 areas that I work in very heavily.
Okay.
There's been a tremendous evolution in how we use those spaces and how we allocate our funding and our time to those spaces. So, for instance, I own a house in Clintonville. When my house was built in the 1940s, we didn't have dishwashers.
Yeah.
The refrigerators we had were very small. The microwave hadn't been invented yet. There was a lot of stuff that didn't even exist in terms of being on a builder's mind when he was laying out the space.
Yeah.
It wasn't a space where you entertained your family and friends, and so it was closed off and set away from everything else. We just had a very different set of parameters. And so for a lot of people, when they're remodeling, they're trying to make a home that was built under a different set of parameters meet the way they live today. And so that sort of obsolescence of design.
Yeah.
Why did they design it this way?
No
Well, 'cause
closets.
They didn't know any better, or they
Yeah.
didn't have the things we have today, or in some cases, they were smaller people than we are today. We took up physically
Quit
less
looking at
room.
my belly.
So, all of those things sort of contribute to how a space gets laid out.
Yeah.
And so there's plenty of people who come in and say, hey, these cabinets that were built with the house in 1940 are still here. The cabinet
Yeah.
doors aren't falling off, to your joke
Yeah.
earlier. But, it just looks a little tired, and I feel closed off from everybody else. And my best friend who has a brand new house in New Albany has this open concept, and I really like that. And so, sometimes you're just trying to make the way we live today work in a house that was built a while ago. And if you can maintain some of the character of the house and make it function for today's family or today's household, that's pretty rewarding.
Yeah.
And so I don't think there's any reason why we have to feel completely locked down to history as long as we're being respectful to the house. And so that sort of obsolescence that you're talking about comes into it. Sometimes people just have a house, the kitchen's only 10 years old, it functions perfectly well. They just don't like the looks of what the previous owners put in it or something, and they want to change for that reason. And so that's very superficial and style driven.
Yeah.
rather than
Well, I know
functional.
another thing that was, and why I asked that question, as it relates to that open concept.
Mm-hmm.
I live in Upper Arlington, and there's a lot of homes here like this where you had, what's this dining room doing here?
Yeah.
And they want to open up the space because it's not only functional obsolescence, it's a change in lifestyle.
Yes.
I want to be able to entertain now.
Right.
And we don't ever use that room, and we have this opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
And I would think I see that like when I go on I always religiously go on the NERI tour of remodeled homes.
As you should.
And I don't know. I have to bring my wife.
I was just
in,
going to say,
and I
unless it
bring
costs
my
you
wife,
money.
and I go, I shouldn't have let her see that because here we go. But that I noticed a lot of that too.
There
when you
is.
did it.
When you think about the square footage that your dining room takes up,
Mhm.
and you think about how much you pay a month on your mortgage, and you think about what that real estate is costing you, and if you're only using it twice a year, you have to start to ask yourself, why?
Yeah.
Why do I have a room in my house
That's
that
a
I'm
good
not
way to look.
using?
See, I'm an analytic. I told you
Yes,
that.
you
That's
did.
how I think.
And so you have to talk to the client and say, well, why is this room here? What do you use it for? Is it important to you that it be separate and formal and very different from the rest of it? If you're telling me my kitchen is way too small, I can't. In my case, in Clintonville, I couldn't even get people to go into my dining room.
Yeah.
I
Right.
mean, I could not get them to go in there and sit down. I would put the food and the booze in there, and they would go and grab it and leave. Like I couldn't get them to sit down and enjoy it. They would go into the TV room where the game was on,
Yeah.
or they would try to hang out in the kitchen with me where there was no room. And it was just a very untenable situation.
So are you telling me you went through this too?
I did.
Okay.
I did. I completely opened up between my kitchen and my dining room. And I did think about the fact that it was an older house. And in the time that it was built, it would have been a formal separate dining room. But it's a small house. And I felt like, you know, what's going to be best for this home is for me to make it a lively, happy place to be.
Yeah.
And for people who are going to live here to be able to enjoy it. And if using this whole room, if this whole room is off limits in this small house, I'm not doing anybody any favors. And so I opened it up. And, you know, there's still a nice light fixture there. It still feels like, you know, it's a nice dining room table. You know, it still has that feel, but it's definitely connected to my kitchen. It flows right through. And I have no trouble getting people to sit there and visit with me while I'm cooking.
The traffic
Right.
pattern.
It's all open.
You know,
Yeah.
that you and we're going to talk about this a little
Okay.
later. I want to see if you have some ideas for this.
Okay.
I have I live in a condo
Okay.
and it's extremely open.
Okay.
But it has a kitchen
Mm-hmm.
and there's a doorway and then it goes like into a 50-foot room.
Okay.
With a loft that goes across.
Right.
So I have a dining room table, TV area, fireplace area.
Yeah.
Okay. And I have this dining room set that is gorgeous.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We bought it 30 years ago.
Oh.
Okay. Huge oak armoire and all
Yeah.
that kind of stuff, which nobody uses armoires now. And I keep arguing with my wife and I go, it doesn't fit. It's too formal.
Mm-hmm.
I refer to my place as the ski lodge, okay?
Yeah.
And I said, I got to get something modern in here for a dining room table. Get rid of this armoire. Nobody uses them. But it's perfect, Marty. It's gorgeous. It's beautiful.
She loves it.
She loves it.
Right.
And we're on different planets, so to
Yeah.
speak. But anyways, we'll get into that when we get the design concepts or what's hot in the market. One of the things that I think you need, you know, people don't understand is, and you said this earlier, you don't have to make all these choices. If you're a good design company like yours, you really help people based upon the budgets that's set to make it, here's your, if I'm speaking out of school, tell me, here's your 5 choices of knobs that you can use within your budget. You help them do that, right?
We absolutely do. And we have lots of tools available to us today that make this process a lot easier. People have, you know, we've got the internet, you know,
Yeah.
It's not hard for people to say, hey, I saw a few of these pictures online. This is really what I like. Something along the lines of this, say it's a chandelier.
Yeah.
And you can say to that client, I know that chandelier. That's a $5,000 chandelier.
Okay.
But I see the style you're going for. How about I present you some things that are more in line with our budgets that we've set up, and I can send them some things. So having house.com and Pinterest and
Oh my gosh,
hgtv.com and all of those things really help a client, even if they can't articulate necessarily what their style is, or they don't necessarily have the vocabulary for it. They can send me a couple of images and say, kind of like this, except maybe a little more decorative, or kind of like this, but maybe not in the bright white, or you know, whatever. Just give me a direction, and then I'll walk you the rest of the way there. I can help you narrow things down. I can say, hey, I would recommend one of these 3 because, and give them their, my job is to filter, give them what I think are all good choices and the pluses and minuses of each one, and then let them make the call on which.
So you
direction
make
they're
it
gonna
easy
go.
for someone like me.
We try,
because
yes.
I call that, only because you use the terms yourself, alternative choice. That's right. Here's the 3 things, pick one, boom, makes it easy.
Yeah.
See, that makes it easy for somebody as bad as me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or we may ask a few questions and say, okay, well, that's automatically driving you in this direction. You know, if
Yeah.
you want this and this and this feature, then I'm going to put you here in terms of cabinet manufacturer or something like that. You know, so we'll ask, you know, probing questions. We'll try to get down to, you know, what your hot buttons are, what's important to you. And then we usually are already thinking, you know,
Yeah.
what I can offer.
Well,
that's
you
gonna
know,
hit those for you.
you do this every day, so you know all the products that are out there. This is, I mean, so you can kind of filter it down quickly based
Yes.
upon budget and what
Yes.
people are doing. Okay,
Yeah.
tell the folks how they get in touch with J.S. Brown and Company.
Well, probably the most direct method is through our website, which is
Yes.
www.jsbrowncompany, with company spelled out. And on there, you can look at our work, you can see our process, you can meet our staff, you can send us a message through there very easily. And that's probably the most direct method, but we're also on all the social media platforms. So you can find us on Instagram, Facebook, house.com, Pinterest.
Now, if I didn't mention this, he'd be mad at me.
Yes,
Bryce has a podcast.
he does. It's
And
called
it's-
Above Grade, and it's on our website.
Yes.
Yes, so it's just in the top right corner when you go to our website, and you can listen to Bryce and Marty was on one
I was on
podcast,
once
so
talking trash.
That's right.
And it's a podcast where Bryce is the president of J.S. Brown, and he talks to a bunch of people, different topics. Unlike I'm kind of focused on strictly remodeling, but he focuses on remodeling and community, all kind of different things. So my advice is you can go to their website, the easiest way. I think it's on iHeartRadio too.
It is.
Go listen to Bryce and his podcast. You'll get a little more of a feel for J.S. Brown and Company. Okay, we got to take a quick break. We'll be right back, and then we're going to do the exciting thing. We're going to come and talk about trends, what people are doing.
What's new?
Yeah. Okay, we'll be right back. Okay, did that go okay?
Fine for me.
Okay. Whenever you're ready, George.
Okay, so let me save this part real quick.
Don't you go through that again.
I know. I know.
This is where we got hung up.
Oh.
Yep.
Oh, that one stopped bleeding. Okay.
And this,
Hurt yourself?
No, mosquito bites.
you want this one for this weekend, this show?
Sure.
Okay. All right. Okay. Oops.
Wait, is this 4th of July weekend?
Next weekend.
Okay, this will be a good one.
Yeah,
Do
4th
me
of
on
July
4th of
is
July.
Wednesday, this coming Wednesday.
Everybody will have a hangover. I want them to hear her. You can play me. Nobody will listen to me.
Okay. Starting again in 3, 2.
Once again, welcome back. We're talking with Monica Miller of J.S. Brown and Company, the infamous or famous, however you want to say it, designer.
Notorious.
Notorious,
I kinda like that,
yes.
yeah.
I'm sorry, but you earned that reputation as being a great designer. For the break, I said we're going to talk a little bit about trends, okay?
Mhm.
And I notice a few things that I've seen. Some I like, some I don't.
Mhm.
So I'm going to go through my non-likes and offend everybody out there that's done this, okay?
Okay.
Because
Do we get a debate? If I think you're wrong, do I get a debate?
you get to debate
Okay.
and tell me,
I'm just checking.
okay?
All right.
But I have this theory about people. There are a lot of lemmings, okay?
Okay.
So when you go to
Yes.
house, you go to those kind of
Yes.
things, and people go, oh, I like that. And sooner or later, you see it everywhere.
Right.
Gray paint,
Yes.
okay? I think gray paint has played its course. But every time I go to a Neri thing, there's gray paint that shows up.
Yeah.
And I know it's because a lot of people just go, I saw that and I like that. Now,
Right.
I understand there are tons of, it's not gray, there are all these different shades of gray
Yes,
anymore.
that's true.
And to me, it's kind of replaced what we used to call the neutral tans.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
had to be in the design
You
business.
should. You got the lingo.
Okay. The other thing is, what do they call it? I'm going to call it the industrial look
Mm-hmm.
and the reclaimed wood.
Yes.
I'm not into that. Okay?
Okay.
I think those kind of things, I'm just setting the stage here.
Yes.
Those kind of things to me are too trendy. They're not, I'm kind of, if you came into, and I lean towards very contemporary.
Okay.
I shouldn't say very, but a contemporary look. But I have to limit myself because I don't want things that go pop, and then 3 years later you kind of go, oh, that doesn't have any life to it.
Right.
So I'm trying to set the stage. When you're
Yes.
talking to people, we'll change this a little bit about that. When they come to you with those kind of things, do you discuss that with them?
We do talk about it, and one of the things about our business in particular is that it's very fashion driven.
Yes.
And so you have to start. One of the things that I frequently get asked by a homeowner is, I want you to give me something that's not going to be out of style in 20 years.
Yeah.
And I tell them I can't do that. I've got no crystal ball. I can't tell you
Right.
what's coming, just like, my predecessors in the 1960s couldn't have foreseen, what was going to happen in the 80s. There's no foretelling what technology is going to bring us, how society is going to change, and what is going to drive the fashion of the day. One of the things I talk to people about is not getting so bogged down in the fact that what I'm doing has to last forever. The same way I don't buy a dress and expect to be wearing it in 20 years and have it still be in fashion, I'm not going to buy a light fixture and expect that it's going to, necessarily stay in fashion for a long, long time. What we do talk about are the elements of your design that are more readily changed as trends change. If you like being a trendy person, don't go top of the line on everything so that it breaks your heart to replace it later because you spent so much money on it when you put
My
it in.
wife's dining room table.
Yeah. If you like being a trendy person, be cognizant of that and maybe, bring the budget down on those pieces so that in 3 years or 5 years or 10 years, when you say, I think I want to replace that light fixture, and you only spend a few $100 on it, it's not going to break your heart to replace it the way it would if you would have spent that $5,000 I was talking about earlier. Then you're just thinking, I got to keep this forever, even though I hate it. The other thing I talk to people about is respecting the house that they're in. If I design something that looks like it dovetails in with other elements of your home, even if we went from a contained space floor plan like I was talking about in my house in Clintonville, where I had a small kitchen and then a stairwell and then a kind of decent sized dining room, and I sort of flip-flopped that, made my kitchen bigger, opened it up to the dining room so I didn't need quite as much space and could still house my table. That's a modern floor plan. But I matched the profiles of my crown molding to the crown molding that were in the house. I did a door style that would have been available when the house was built. I stayed with tones that blended with the original hardwood floors. There were things I did that made it conceivable that it could have been done that way when the house was built in a lot of instances. And then I put my own modern touches on it, like the countertops.
Sure.
The light fixtures, some
Things
things like
people
that.
expect to see, though, when you've done something.
Right.
You don't go with the old Formica countertop just because the house was built in the 40s or whatever.
Exactly. You want something that's going to function for you. But when you pay respect to the architecture of the house, then down the road, anybody who likes that house, its style in general, just the same way that if somebody bought a Victorian house, they're not going to walk into it expecting to see, a mid-century modern kitchen in it. They're
totally different interior from the exterior.
Right. In general, if people are buying in a certain neighborhood or they're buying in a certain architectural style, they kind of like that look. And so they're going to want to see it throughout. And so that's what I tell people, do your basics, your big pieces, the big components of your design, the flooring, the cabinets, things like that. Take cues from what's in the rest of the house. Pay respect to the architecture. Then put your personality into the parts that are easy to change. The backsplash, the pendant lights over the island, the kitchen sink faucet. Do your trendy pieces on the cabinet hardware. Do those things that are easy to change later and not terribly costly. And then as fashions change and you may want to mix things up a little bit, you feel a lot better about changing them out.
That makes total sense because now I'm starting to believe that I'm a better designer than I thought. Because when I moved in my condo, I changed the light fixtures, I changed the backsplash, I changed the sink. I got a big one-bowl ceramic sink. I bought this really fancy sink faucet. And I upgraded the appliances. I have wood. What are they? They're wood cherry. They're wood cherry finished in nutmeg cabinets, right?
Okay, yeah.
And so everybody says, well, white is the cabinet, that big thing. These cabinets are gorgeous. I'm not replacing these wood cabinets, so we did everything around. And it fit the character of the place. So, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, God, we're about almost out of time here. We have a few minutes left, believe it or not. Real quick, just bullet out some things you see happening. I don't care what you talk, flooring, countertops,
in the industry, I think there's a big shift towards things being easy to care for. Lifestyles are busier. people have things they want to do. They don't want to spend tons of time maintaining. You know, I don't want to go out and have to repaint and recaulk my siding every 5 years. And so
Yeah.
we're looking at materials that are going to last longer and require less maintenance. And that's true on the inside as well. So I think that's a big trend for people. I think there's also a broader awareness and a broader focus of the fact that we're not all the same. We all have different abilities, we're all different sizes, and a universal design aspect where you maybe accommodate an older parent who might be living with you, or the young child who might have some safety concerns that you're worried about. Designing for your whole family and not just for the primary homeowner in the house. And I think in general, we're seeing design get more simple, more streamlined, a little bit more contemporary. That's a pendulum that swings back and forth. When I first got into the business, it was as ornate and as much molding as you could fit into a kitchen. That's what you did.
Yeah.
And now we're stripping it all away. But again, you know, respect the house, you know, do what you want to do. But I think in general, we are seeing a simplification. And I think that, again, that goes back to the lack of maintenance. The simpler it is, the cleaner lines they are, the easier it is to maintain. You're not having to dust all that acanthus leaf molding that you might have put in 20 years ago. So,
and I remember that.
oh yeah,
I
it
remember
was
when
big.
we had a house, we had to have stained crown molding put up, all that
Yeah,
stuff.
the little grape leaves.
Oh,
and
God, yeah.
Oh yeah. So yeah, I think there's just that trend towards, you know, making my life function better and being as simple as I can and driving towards that easier, simpler life.
Okay. I need to have you on again. We barely scratched the surface.
I can talk
here.
about this stuff for
I
hours.
know you can. Okay, tell people once again, they've got to know how to get in touch with you.
They do. They're going to want to know. Okay, the easiest way is through our website, www.jsbrowncompany.com.
Very good. Oh, and by the way, I'll let the cat out of the bag. Your profile's on there. I do my homework for you. Meet our team, and you can go, and all of your people are listed on that website. When you scroll to their picture, it gives their background.
It does.
You didn't know I knew that, did you?
I did not know you were stalking me online. I'll check my profile now. Make sure it was up to par.
Well, the last thing I would tell you is this. You do have a fantastic website, and there are countless projects. You have a tab where you can go and just look at kitchens. You can look at bathrooms, room additions, all that. And then they'll come up by area where you did it. We might say Dublin, whatever. You can click on that and it shows a bunch of pictures of that project. It's a great way to see the quality of the work that J.S. Brown does. So go to their website. That's all I can tell you. Folks, thanks for listening. As always, I'll tell you, go out today, make somebody happy. I'll see you next week. God, we could have talked for hours. I said, God, I'm cutting. We didn't even get the design trends.